Welcome to Get Off Zero. Today I've got a very special guest who I've known for over a year now, I think. But bit of a background story on that. So when I left my school initially, it was a bit of a sad state of affairs sort of leaving the school because we had like a robbery for the Bitcoin space that I built with the kids, and yeah, it was kind of awful, like the way the school was kind of I guess changed into something else that was more aligned with the Department of Education and away from self-directed learning, and it was yeah, kind of gut-wrenching to sort of leave. So I was kind of sitting there stewing on that, and I was like, well, I could put energy, like negative energy, into thinking about that, or I could put it into something positive. And it ended up being a white paper that I wrote about a decentralized autonomous education system. Basically taking all the elements for the learning that the kids did at my school and making that kind of for everybody. Like, how do we make the learning that happened there applicable to anyone and anyone around the world, sort of thing. And so at the same time, I was reading about Blockstack, and they had moved to Blockstack 2.0, which they rebranded as Stacks. I'm like, oh, that's cool. So like all the cool tech, decentralized tech that was on Blockstack initially, you could do on the BTC blockchain. Cool. Posted that into this chat group on Discord, so the Stacks chat group. And I was like, is this the rantings of a madman for my white paper, or does this make sense to anybody? And it was a really nice gentleman by the name of Jacques got back to me and said, yeah, this is awesome, man. And then we started spitballing some pretty cool and wacky ideas for like the next year, I think, after that, which was pretty awesome. Yeah, I'd like to welcome Jacques. Thanks for jumping into this. Do you want to give us a bit of a background to yourself, sort of what you're up to, what you do, and yeah, a bit of a bio if you can?
Sure. Yeah, my name is Jacques Achille. Like for work, I go by Train Farb, and my background is in civil engineering and construction management. I had my dream job, dream company right out of school, and then it was a volunteered for a week. I was getting burnt out at work, and I volunteered for a week in Haiti. That's where my dad's from, so I got a French name, and just really changed my perspective on everything. So after that, I quit my job about a year later, started up a nonprofit. I wanted to help other people volunteer so they could have a similar experience. But then I realized that everyone has different interests. So then a friend and I started teaching ourselves how to code and design. And it was like a donation application. And as we were doing that was when I really started to get, that was around 2016. And then my friend that was coding with me, he sent me stuff about blockchain and Bitcoin and all that. And that was the catalyst that like I had so many wild ideas about how like volunteering and just people collaborating could be, but it didn't seem like I had the tools to make it happen. But then like the instant that I started learning about blockchain, Bitcoin, and just decentralization, it just completely opened up like my perspective even more and just changed my approach to everything. And
So before we get into that, sorry to cut you off. Like, what was
yeah,
your
yeah.
what is your official profession now, and what was it sort of then, I suppose?
My profession then was I was like a project engineer right out of school. So with that, like you're on site. Um, Early on, you're just like reviewing submittals and you're making sure that the designs that the subcontractor is bringing in matches what the architect wants, and just a lot of coordination, budgeting, scheduling, and just verifying quality of work. I was working on it was like a $90 million project down at the University of Chicago, the David Logan Art Center. It was a really, really beautiful building. It was a cool building, but it took a lot out of me.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think one aspect of it, it was like just being strictly in an engineering role. Um, I felt like it didn't allow me to be like creative enough, even like just wanting to change up spreadsheets at work. People would be like, "Well, we just do things a certain way here,"
Oh yeah,
which
yeah.
rubbed me the wrong way a little bit. So I still have that project engineering aspect in me. It's kind of how I schedule all my work and produce it. But my role now, I just call myself a project design engineer.
Yep.
So, and with that, so like I want to help individuals, families. I've tutored before, so I would love to help families and also and businesses. I want to help them just productize their goals. So like, let's take your goals, let's reverse engineer them, figure out what like the key aspects, like key checkpoints, and then help them monetize like their progress as they go through it by
Mm.
you know, kind of like turning, in a sense, it's turning their goals into like a proof of work protocol. Like these are my
Yep.
goals, these are my points. I got to this point. This is what I said within my protocol, what I was going to produce. So there's my proof of work.
Yep.
And then that proof of work is typically something that you would be able to sell. But then the idea is that you're able to live out your purpose when you do that because you're learning what you want to achieve your goals. And I think it's also beneficial if you can offer up a service, offer value to others, but then ultimately teach others how you went about it in the first place. So it's like it's kind of allowing people to work towards whatever it is, whether they want to create a DAO or just change their diet or or purchase a home, whatever goal they want to work towards, they can turn that into a protocol and then teach others how to do it as well. So
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. And
yeah.
you've got a whole framework built out for that pretty much now.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of it more recently. I've been thinking about it as like a real operating system because
Oh, I like that.
uh, like the our story, like our collective story, our story open source operating system. So just OS3, and it's meant to be a way that just allows people to effectively create their own social network with their own applications. So like my profile is just going to be on Notion. My data storage, like for me to own the data, is going to be on GitHub. My publication is going to be on Substack. So I want to use all these platforms as a tool to learn about the different benefits from each of them. And then as this continues to go on, I'll have lessons learned and I'll have like, oh, I wish this was accessible in Notion. What if Notion and GitHub can merge together? And then as developers start to join the ecosystem, maybe we can build out software and actually finalize some of these protocols that we're piecing together into
Yep.
a blockchain. I mean, that's why I'm so excited about the School of Bitcoin, obviously. So it's like right now I'm using this site called Lemon Squeezy to share the courses that I've been creating. But
Oh,
ultimately, once we have the School of Bitcoin, I mean, we can just instead of using that, let's just put it like list courses up on within the days.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's where I really.
Yeah, so to fill people on the day, so that's been a a project that sort of morphed into a million different things, I suppose, since we've had so many brains on that. So like a marketplace, we've had like all these cool concepts for this decentralized autonomous education system. More recently, and I don't think I've filled you in on this. We're actually looking at writing an accredited Bitcoin course specifically with that. So well, it's been pretty cool. It's like a 21-day course. We've put up a video last week actually. So me and Gordon went through like basically I've got everything up on GitHub. All the steps for each day that we want to do. We've had some awesome feedback on that. So what we were sort of thinking is like the at the end of that course, if we can get it accredited, and if not, we can do an intake and then sort of reapply through Asqua again. And I'm studying my TAE, so my teaching cert at the moment. So I'm sort of learning all the bits and pieces that you need to do to get things accredited. But if we can do that, I mean, we'll have like the first accredited Bitcoin course in the world, which will be like awesome. And then at the end of that, the Stacks grant that we have, like we still have that learner fund sitting there ticking away for students or for learners to apply for whatever project they're working on. So as part of the days, this is a concept that I think we came up with together, like having that fund where learners can sort of apply to create their projects or whatever they're working on. They can pursue that, and we can foster that, and not just with a fund, but with people that can actually interact with them and help them build out whatever that is. So like through problem-based learning, project-based learning, and building things out. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at now. So like writing up a course for it. So it's gonna be pretty awesome. So looking at May-ish if we can, because it's when I sort of finish my teaching cert. To either spin up our own RTO and do it that way, or just run it and then see if we can get it accredited later on. But pretty exciting stuff. So that's to fill you in on where we're at with the School of Bitcoin. Oh, and weirdly
Yeah,
enough, how weird is this? There's a guy in Western Australia who my friends over there now. There's I think through Bit Refill, they're sponsoring a baseball team that's over there. So it's like a Bitcoin baseball team that's in Western Australia, in Perth. But he met a guy who's spun up something called School of Bitcoin, and I was like, what the hell? And it's just the guy who's like, oh yeah, I wanted to teach. He's like a math teacher who wanted to teach people about Bitcoin, and he's like written all these lesson plans. So he's going to jump in on the faculty meeting on Friday, I think. So you're welcome to jump into that. So it'd be pretty interesting. But yeah, great minds think alike, eh?
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, I did. I was only able to watch the first half of your and Gordon's conversation
cool.
from last week. Yeah, it was. That's exciting. I like the 21-day course. That just makes a lot of sense. And yeah, and
I suppose packing as much as we can into that time frame. So what I'm thinking is like, it's 21 weeks essentially. So meeting up once a week, and then like you have projects to do throughout the week, then coming back together, building them out. I think because that's how I'm doing my TAE, so the teaching cert. It works well. So it's like once a week, you go off, do your assignments, come back, and and I like that. I think it's kind of the way to go.
Yeah, I like that too. Yeah, that's
go.
Each of the steps throughout the process, they all effectively are. It's just like a 1 week course, so it goes from onboarding to like project management, like meeting protocols, branding, all the way up to like a brand story. So I do like the 1 week breakout. That makes a lot of sense.
It does, particularly for groups. I think to sort of go off and come back together and sort of chat about what they've done and exchange ideas. I think it's really good. But anyway, that's getting into School of Bitcoin and other stuff. I want to talk about you today. So this is a learning journey podcast about you. Going back in time, before we get into Bitcoin or blockchain or any of that sort of stuff, do you remember the first time that you questioned money or where it came from?
It was a while after I even found out about like the blockchain and all that. When I first learned about blockchain and Bitcoin, all I was thinking about were applications or abstractions of it, without realizing like the underlying aspect of it was like the energy, the money that is like the fuel through everything. So I think if you ever heard of Ivan on Tech?
Yes.
He has just like a
YouTube channel.
Talks about like, he talks about YouTube, all that. Yeah. But I mean, he talks about Bitcoin and all that, but he had a course that I took online, and it started off with like talking about money. And I'm like, why are they starting? And it was so fundamental, where it seemed like when it first started, I thought it was just like really, really simplified. I was like, why do I need to know about this? I know what money is. But then as they started talking more and more, I realized I was getting more and more confused and just realized how little I knew about it. And I think that was 2017.
Oh, right.
It was not that long ago. So this was 2017 or 2018. It was after I learned about Bitcoin and blockchain. And it's really interesting that I never once thought about what money was before that.
That's fascinating. And most people don't, right? Like you kind of just take it for granted. It's this thing that I use to do whatever. And it's always kind of been there for us anyway. So for us in sort of the Western world, quote unquote, for people in third world countries, not so much, right? Like you take for granted that you can use a credit card and go and buy stuff online or whatever it is. But not everyone has that luxury. And I think for me, I think it was obviously well before that, and I've gone into that on this podcast a few times, so I won't bore people again. But I think it's such a it's such a like a concept that I think for people in the Western world, like you don't think about it. As I still have friends today, like I bring up the topic and they're just like, oh, what do you mean? Like they think it's weird that I care about it. You know what I mean? And it's just like because we're such a privileged sort of society, we don't have to think about it. But I think those days are changing rapidly. So the next few years is going to be interesting for people who've never thought about that before. But well,
Right.
that's an interesting perspective. So 2017, right? So after you heard about Bitcoin, so most people that I've interviewed have been like it's been before that. So
Oh,
interesting.
okay.
Yeah. So your Bitcoin origin story then. So 2016, you sort of learned about it then. What was the so your friend introduced you to it, or what was the catalyst?
Yeah, it was I'm not sure. I think I might have just been I might have been looking into open source software. I'm not sure
Right.
exactly what I was looking for, but I remember I came across I have to look at the actual TED talk. Um, it was a woman who was talking about just like the power of decentralization in blockchain technology, and it blew my mind. And I was talking to my friend about it, and he had already at that point he had already been purchasing Bitcoin and Ethereum, and I'm like, why haven't you been telling? Why didn't you tell me about this? But yeah, so that was my intro to it, and then I didn't do much with it at that point. I don't think it was until a couple years later when I actually started learning more about it or buying some. But then it wasn't really until 2019 when I really started like putting more energy into it. It was like a slow drip of like, oh, I'm now aware of what it is, and let me see how this changes my ideas of what I'm already working on. And it wasn't until a few years after that when I actually started to dive in and want to learn about the actual fundamentals and information behind the protocol.
Yeah, interesting. And so you mentioned Ethereum, so you obviously looked at like altcoins within that time and sort of I suppose the different applications for different ones as have I over the years. Like what's been in your experience with altcoins? Stacks obviously is one of them.
What'd you say?
Stacks is one of them, obviously.
Yeah, Stacks
Yeah.
is one of them. I I feel like when I uh, first got into it, I bought into the hype more than anything. You know, I was
Yeah.
looking and I had friends that were investing. They were buying stuff on like just back then. Binance was a lot shop that is
Shibu
now.
Inu coin, yeah. Yeah.
But they were buying these coins for like fractions of a cent, and they were skyrocketing. So all I was doing was trying to find that for
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah.
And so then you're just like you're throwing money in here and there, and you're just kind of like spreading it out all over the place. Some of it's going to zero, and just kind of chasing stuff around. And
Gambling.
it just
Yeah.
Bitcoin, yeah, Bitcoin was not attractive because it just wasn't moving much, and it seemed like at the time it seemed like it was already had to have already been at the peak.
Yeah.
It used to be at 9 cents, and now it's at $500. There's no way I
Yeah.
could buy it now.
It's too expensive. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's really how I started with, and even then I was just like dabbling a little bit with like altcoins. And I think in 2020 is when I really went all in on like when things are locked down.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone had time to just focus on projects or just research, and I went pretty heavy in just learning a lot about like the specifics of decentralization, really digging into like what Bitcoin is, and then I liked like Polkadot. I thought it was just really interesting how they were going about like their mode of decentralization and like their sharding principles. And so really out of all of it, I mean, there was a lot of bad altcoins that I purchased, but I would say I really just landed at just wanting to focus on Bitcoin
Yeah.
and like few altcoins. It's like I like learning about the philosophy behind things like
Absolutely.
Polkadot.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
I think it makes me think about how communities can operate, and like it's kind of they have people that are trying to steer it in a certain direction. Like I love that Bitcoin is just it just exists,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's interesting like certain communities and how they apply it.
Absolutely. And I think that's where people sort of get they conflate like the gambling with like you said, like community building, and not even just the community building, but like there is cool tech being built in other projects, but it's not necessarily a vehicle to dump money into, right? So people get the two things mixed up. It's like, yeah, there's people gambling on Shiba Inu coin over here, and then there is interesting things being built. I wouldn't recommend putting money into any of them, but that's not to say there isn't cool stuff being built. So it's like, you know what I mean? It's like the
Yeah.
energy transfer, and like you were saying, like the people sort of pumping into um coins that were like, you know, whatever, Dogecoin or whatever it was, and then it pumping up. What people don't think about when they're trading those coins is there's someone else on the other end of that trade that's getting hurt when you're doing that, right? So like, and I mean, I've been guilty of that, thinking, oh, this is going to be great, like back in the day, like whatever. But when you sit back and think about it, like if you are gambling like that, it's someone else is losing if you're winning, sort of thing. So it's not a good environment, I don't think. So supporting development and decentralized tech, absolutely. And if that means supporting them by, you know, giving energy transfer to that, I would say even like, you know, the proof of work protocols. So like if you really love a project, like I still like Handshake. I think it's fantastic. I run a node for them and a miner, and it's like low energy, but you know, you're contributing to a project that you think is cool. Awesome. Like give energy to that project. Gambling, it's another story, right? It's two completely separate things. That's what kind of irritates me, where you have like people fighting on Twitter about different protocols and stuff. It's like, yeah, guys, it's not the protocol's fault. It's people gambling with that money.
Right.
That's the problem, right? So yeah, I'm with you 100% on that. And I think like the whole altcoin journey needs to be reframed, I think. And um I do like what Stacks is doing, like with the ability to sort of write you know, smart contracts and all the stuff that you can do with Ethereum, NFTs and all that sort of stuff, and then writing it to the BTC blockchain. I think that's awesome. But yeah, again, I think it's if you're just looking at trading like the token that they created, you're probably thinking in the wrong direction, I reckon.
Right.
But yeah, so that's cool. I think you're on the right track. So with that, like obviously, like the big one being BTC, and I think the best way to sort of help yourself and help that network, one of the best ways is dollar cost averaging, and it's an investment mechanism that, one, there isn't anyone on the other end of the trade that's getting hurt by that, but two, it means you're sort of supporting the network, and you don't have to be freaking out looking at the price going up and down every day doing that. So it's the one I sort of recommend to people that are interested in BTC. Specifically, like, you know, you can save $5 a week if you want, and sit and forget it and not think about it. And Amber's the tool that I use for that. But do you have you DCA'd in the past? Do you recommend DCAing? And yeah, what's your philosophy or your take on that?
Yeah, I absolutely recommend DCA. That's all I recommend to everyone. Because, you know, just it's been apparent, like time has shown that the price is going to fluctuate a lot. But even though the price fluctuates, like the underlying technology and value that is inherent there is still there. So if you believe in that, then it's worth just dollar cost averaging what you can afford. Like I just do $50 a week, and it's with through a service. I just use Swan, and it's just straight through to my Ledger wallet, and I never even think about it. I just get an email a week. I'm like, oh, there goes again.
Awesome.
So
Yeah, Swan.
yeah, so like, I've really just checked out of, because before it was very much more like looking at pricing every single day, but now more than anything, I don't really concern myself with it. So yeah.
Yeah, same here. I love Swan. They're such a cool company. I wish they were in Australia. They're on the. I don't know if you're subscribed to Bitcoin Jobs, but there's like emails that come
No.
out, and then on Stacker News, actually, Stacker News, they have all the Bitcoin Jobs as well. Swan Bitcoin are always posting like new interesting looking jobs as well. Like, geez, that's cool.
Oh,
So,
Interesting.
but I think they're all American based, so it's all for you. I think you should go for it if you're looking for another job, which I know you're probably not, but looks like they'd be a cool company to work for. So
Yeah.
with that, oh yeah, so this one are they custodial? Like as you're buying through them?
They so it's interesting. So you purchase a certain amount through them, and then once it reaches a certain threshold, you can do it like at once it reaches 0.01 or zero point 0.1 or 1 BTC, then it'll make a transfer over.
Right,
So
right.
it's yeah, yeah. So they hold it for a limited amount of time, and once you reach a certain threshold, it's sent it straight to your wallet.
Awesome. So you can do
Yeah.
hardware wallet. That's cool. So are you using custodial services at the moment? So like as part of documenting like your learning journey and where you're up to. So like the concept is sort of getting off zero custodial services for people along the way in their learning journey. Are you using any? And at what stage did you sort of get off them?
I think I got off them 2021 is when I finally got off them.
Oh, right.
Um, I mean, and really just I got off for Bitcoin. Bitcoin was the only Bitcoin and Polkadot. I had some Polkadot, put both of those on my Ledger wallet, and then the rest I wasn't planning on doing much with them. It's just I left the rest on my exchanges. I didn't have them on the wallet. So at this point, it's really just I have a few stray altcoins that are floating on that I should do something with, but for the time being, they're still
Yeah.
there.
Just leave them. Ah, nice. So yeah, that's good. So yeah, my next question was your choice of hardware wallet. So obviously Ledger's your tool of choice.
Yeah, it was my buddy. Um, I kind of like convinced him to buy some Bitcoin, and he actually purchased a ledger, and then they gave him two, and he was like, "You want this other one?" And so I wasn't even actively looking for it, but I once I got it, even then I feel like everything my entire journey here is like I learn about it, and then I don't do anything, and then I finally get into it. And when I had the ledger, I think it was sitting in my room for like a year before I actually
Before you
activated it.
cracked it open.
Yeah,
It's such an easy to use tool. I will say, like I got one on my keyring here.
yeah,
The like as a signing device and as like an easy to use like open up. You can plug it into your phone if you want to. They're pretty damn cool, I gotta say. But I've pretty much used every type of hardware wallet. I think in terms of usability, like really good. In terms of security, they're okay because I don't know if you know, but basically they're closed source, so no one can review the code. And also, I didn't know this, but they've got a battery in them that actually fails after X amount of time. Um,
really. Wow.
yeah, which is so it's worth thinking about because I know Trezor doesn't. So Trezor's open source as well, so you can actually grab a Trezor. People review the code all the time, and it's pretty secure because of that. Um, and Cold Card's the other one. So Cold Card's a steeper learning curve, I think, to utilize because it's it's like air gapped and really security conscious, but fun to use once you actually get it up and rocking. Um,
Yeah.
Whereas, yeah, Ledger's, I think Ledger's a good sort of stepping stone to getting to these other open source technologies that are maybe a little bit harder to use, but definitely worth pursuing if you have the time.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
So, yes,
Interesting because those like all of these different aspects, they've been I think the reason why there's been a delay in my education is just because it's intimidating. I think coming into it initially, you're like, I don't have time to get into that right now. It just seems like daunting. And I remember the first time I was using my ledger, I was worried that I was like going to enter something wrong or get locked out. And the whole I understand the people's aversion to it, but once you do start using it, you realize that it's a pretty regimented process that you have to go through, but it's easy to learn and keep up. So
there's an uh what are they called? Tap signer. I don't know if you use tap signer, but basically I got it here. There's no, I don't. Must be in the other room. Um, Basically, it's like a card you can put into your wallet, and it's got NFC on it, and you can tap it to your phone as multi-sig, and it's so easy to set up with a software called Nunchuck. So Nunchuck's a fantastic hot wallet. Sits on your phone, and for the multi-sig, you can literally set it up within 5 minutes. No remembering long strings of characters, no passwords, no anything. So it's literally just a pin. So you still have a pin, but you do your transaction, tap, done, and you can actually do multi-signature as well. That easy as well. So like you could have a seed signer or a tap signer. I can have one. I go, all right, Jacques, I need to do a transaction. Tap, you tap, it's done. Like it's that easy.
Oh,
It's
wow.
incredible. So I'd highly recommend it. And it's cheap too. Like I think it was like $15 or something. Like
Oh,
totally worth doing. And if I'm thinking like long term, if you have like, your parents or something or oldies who like forget everything, that's the way to go. And you can set it up so it's like easy for them to do because it's just like an app that looks like anything else. Really nice UX, and they just keep this thing in their wallet and tap it, and away you go. So I reckon that's kind of the future, making it as easy
yeah.
as possible for people. Um, so moving on to hash rate, so getting off zero hash rate. I'm mining here. I've got some home miners. I've actually got a Watts miner sitting here. That's once I plugged it in, it was too loud and hot, so I've like unplugged it. So I need to think of a solution for it. Um, have you dabbled in mining at all, or thought about hash rate, or sort of why the hash rate's important to the network?
I've dabbled into learning about it a little bit. I've got a Raspberry Pi here. I have not. I was always thinking about turning it into a little, at least a node. I
Yeah,
don't know
yeah.
if you can mine from those, but I haven't actually gotten into it. I think I went to a single meetup with a company that was trying to talk to people about how to. It seemed like a weird pyramid scheme. It was like, give us some of this, and then our miners like bring you this profit back, and I'm like,
Right,
I'm
right,
not doing
right.
it. But
Like
it just
cloud mining. Was it like a cloud mining operation or something like that?
yeah, I don't know. But it just, if I was going to, I would want something that I actually had. It wouldn't really feel like I was participating in the decentralized network if I didn't have it at home.
True,
Um,
true.
would like to do that. How big is? So do you have one running right now, or is you don't have a?
I do actually. Just
Oh,
behind this camera outside, I've got like a
oh,
little
you had,
a little tent sort of thing. But
you're
I've
it off just for this call, or
no,
you
it's
turned it
on,
off?
it's on all the time.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, yeah,
okay,
yeah. But no, the miners that I have got the Apollo miners, so they're basically low powered miners that you can run from home. I mean, the terahash I think I've got like 14 terahash running off them, which isn't the most in the world, but you still get sat rewards every day. And what I like about that is obviously the learning aspect to it, because you can read about mining till you're blue in the face. Like I was mining back in the day with like GPU miners, and it was a lot of fun, a lot of learning involved with that. And then when you're not doing stuff all the time, it's kind of like memory erase. I've forgotten about that. So because home mining wasn't really that viable, and yeah, ASICs were quite expensive. The the middleman was like these future bit Apollo miners that are like low powered, rock them at home, and sort of away you go. And like they actually run a full node on them as well. So like you kind of killing two birds with one stone. Although you can't
yeah.
do any lightning stuff with them. So yeah, I'd still recommend like rocking your own node if you can. So if you've looked
Mm.
into like I run Citadel here, been playing around with Umbrel as well. I don't know if you've seen Umbrel, but they're pretty cool. You can run them basically on anything, and it's really nice UX. So if you got like an old laptop, old computer, you can actually spin up Umbrel
Mm.
on one of those. You don't even need a Raspberry Pi. Which is, I mean, the I don't know what sort of Raspberry Pi you've got. Is it a 4 or a 3?
The four,
I
yeah,
thought, you should be fine then.
yeah.
With I'd probably recommend Umbrel or Citadel them. to spin it up, and then you can play around with the Lightning apps and all the cool things you can do with that. And you probably dig it more than anyone actually. Like they've got through Umbrel, it's got like a user interface that just has all these decentralized apps you can spin up and install. So like sync thing is baked into it, so you can actually set up a sync thing instance, so you're sharing your data between whatever devices you have with that. There's like a myriad of OwnCloud is one, Nextcloud's one. So like or OwnCloud, owning your own data, like a whole bunch of stuff. IPFS, so you can actually run natively on there, and it's just like one button click. So yeah, highly recommend it. You'll dig it for sure.
Oh wow. Okay.
So that was actually my next question. If you're running a node, so
Oh.
soon to be.
I think that's something that I wanted to. One of the first courses I wanted to work on for the days was helping people set up a Lightning node. I think the Lightning network is really, really fascinating.
It is.
It's pretty, yeah.
It is. It is. Have you used it much?
I haven't. No, I mean I have the Strike application. Like the same one that's plugged into Twitter. So I know that runs on Lightning. The company's here in Chicago as well, and I like that company a lot, but I don't use it too often. Like I've worked with a few people trying to get them to just like if they could send me through it, but they were in New York and it's not available there. So
oh really? Is it only available in certain states?
Yeah, I think it's only a few that it's not. And I was surprised that New York was one of them, honestly. But,
weird. Yeah.
Well,
maybe not that surprising. So they had New York had like the first Bitcoin center. I actually went and spoke there back in 2013 or 2014 or something. And then after that, there's a whole doco on it. Like the Wall Street people like shut it down. So there's like it was real nasty actually, because it was a wicked space, like really decked out. They had like all these like really like cool activities in there as well. And they just like did the dirty on them, and the Wall Street guys didn't like it. So I'd say that's probably has something to do with Strike not being available there as well. But how do you use Strike? So I've wanted to sign up as well, but it's not available in Australia. Like what's the ins and outs of it?
It's a pretty simple user interface. So I mean, you just I think when I first signed up, there was a short waiting period. It might have been a couple of weeks before I was like actually like allowed onto the platform. But then once you're in, it's just 3 different screens. It's just the screen that has your profile that you can share your address with someone else, a screen that kind of shows the pricing, and then another one where you could purchase. So it's very, very stripped down application. And it seems like they want to be more of like how they're being used as a service on Twitter. I mean, if you have Venmo, it's pretty similar to Venmo.
Yep.
But it's strictly focused on. Do you know that it's? I mean, you could also send US dollars through it as well. It's not just Bitcoin, but it's just Bitcoin and US dollars.
So it's USD over Lightning though, right? Isn't that how it's?
What's that?
Like so, it's So it's like you can. So the idea from what Jack Mallers has explained from his closet in Chicago, which I love. I love those interviews. It's so funny. Watching in this like barren closet with nothing behind him. But like the concept is basically Aussie dollars this side, Lightning Network, USD on your side, and you never have to know that you've used Bitcoin in the middle, sort of thing. So cool. So cool. There's an app called Vita, so vita.page. And that basically lets you do that. Like, so you can sign up. We're actually using it for tutoring. So we set up like a tutoring page on the School of Bitcoin. Another wacky idea that we had one week. That we'll throw that up as well. But basically, it lets you sign up with a credit card, and then that credit card you pay for communication. So you can do like video streaming, like audio calls or messages, and you set your fee. But the fee the person pays on their end gets changed into BTC over Lightning to the person. Like, this is a killer app. I can't believe it hasn't like exploded, because it's available all over the world. and it means everyone can be interacting over BTC without the end person sort of knowing it, which is so cool. Such a cool technology.
Yeah, I actually joined that call
Oh, cool.
when you went over. So I think I have an account, but I haven't used it. And I was now that I've been starting to actually put courses out. Part of it is going to be doing one-on-one like training with people. So I've been thinking of using that as a mechanism for payment. Then, yeah, I think that'd be perfect.
Absolutely. Yeah, you should do that. Sure. So to dive into that, but I've got other questions. But going into your new project now, so with that, it's obviously teams you're working with, individuals. Like, do you want to run us through like how, like where you're at with that, and then sort of what your future journey is going to look like with that as well?
Sure. Yeah, like last year was all like pretty experimental, like self-funded, and I was just trying to figure out how the mechanisms could all potentially work. But near the end of last year, I really got settled into a few different like promising projects. Like I was just in Rwanda back in November.
Oh wow.
Like an agricultural project that we're doing out there, and it's actually like my uncle's business. He's a chemist, and he just found like he found a new technology for using a root vegetable that grows like a weed in like sub-Saharan Africa. And so he's figured out a way to turn it into a slurry that can then be turned into like an alcohol that you can use to turn into all different types of products.
Whoa.
So with that, I'm helping him develop a business ecosystem. So he's like, I don't have the time to manage all of this. But I was like, if we can figure out a way where you just put like the technology and the value chain in the middle, and then allow the ecosystem to grow around it, that
Yeah.
would effectively be something like a decentralized autonomous organization where everyone understands the shared purpose that they're working towards. And then if there's a team that's really good at branding, they can come in and they can start branding what's going to turn into. Or if someone's more on like the manufacturing side, they can come in and just develop their own protocol that's going to operate within the ecosystem. And then, so I'm just at this stage, it's really me working with him, and then like I have like 6 other people that I'm working with on their different size projects, and it's kind of like a building it as we go. So like the
Mm.
first course, education based, that's like the onboarding, how you bring anyone into your own ecosystem. So I teach someone the onboarding about how to use it, and then they adapt that onboarding in their own language for their own purposes, so that then they can onboard people into their ecosystem. And then the next step, I teach them how I specifically have a project management protocol that I use. And then again, they adapt it for their own system. And then, so effectively, I'm at the third stage where like this whole week I've been working on developing a pretty robust brand design system so that someone can put in place. They just answer, ranges from like 20 to 30 questions. And then it gives them an output that we put together, and then we continue to go. So it's going to be 6 more weeks of this, more courses until it's all built out, and that'll just be like version 0. But then at that point, we'll just be able to continue to iterate. And the real benefit of it is I gain a lot when I go through it with someone, because I explain things in one way that makes sense to me. But then when I see them translate it into their own words for their own purposes, it helps me realize how adaptable it can be and how I can improve it in the first
Yeah.
place. So that's effectively, we'll have more and more versions of the exact same course in all different languages, so that then people will be able to onboard people into like this decentralized ethos that we all have ownership over. But however someone's attracted to it will be something that really resonates with them, which I ultimately just want more and more. I want there to be more options for people to explore their creativity and to express their perspective.
Mm.
Like I think decentralization is important for a monetary system, but I also think it's very important for like our collective intelligence, because when our perspectives are centralized around like just where we get our information or whatever political system we happen to be in at the time, I think people have been trained just with our technology to blindly accept the terms of service. That's not
Yeah.
a knock on it, you know. Something
Yeah.
that's there's just like a lot of information that's always coming at us. So
Yes.
it's, does everyone have the time to discern every single thing that comes through, or do they have to like focus on just like the fact that life has a lot going on? So it's easier to just be like, yes, okay, that's what I believe, that's what it
Yeah.
is. But
Leave me alone. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
fine, whatever. That's what I believe now. So with this, I want it to be something that's gamified. So whether it's a business or an individual, the discernment, the process of figuring out how to break down your tasks, how to think and like balance the different perspectives. I want to help it turn into like a sense making game, so that people can work towards their goals, think, learn from different perspectives, and just really start to like get a little bit more pleasure and enjoyment out of growing and just seeing different, seeing what they're capable of more than
Man,
anything.
that's so cool. I love it. I love it. Are you sort of open to onboarding people? Is there someone we can send people, or are you still building out with a small team before you want to sort of launch into a bigger audience?
I am. No, I mean, I absolutely open to it now. I want as many people to as possible. So it's
Awesome.
I got a Substack. Like I'm just on Substack, and also we've got a, like I said, the listing on this site. It's just like a marketplace site called Lemon Squeezy,
Yep.
that I have. But it's like Q3 Agency, which is the agency that I work within.
Yep.
Q3 Agency Lemon Squeezy, or Q3 Agency Substack is where
Awesome.
all the,
Awesome. We'll yeah,
yeah.
definitely hopefully get people coming your way for that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah, yeah.
still want to run through it for the days as well. I think that'll be super important. So once we have the curriculum built out and hopefully accredited, that piece like for the learner fund, I think that's where sort of the days comes into that. So definitely want to pursue that. But going back to Rwanda, that sounds incredible. We kind of skimmed over that. That sounds like such a cool journey. Like, whoa, what's it like there? Is there, have you seen any adoption there? Because I know there's a lot of, I know in Central Africa there's a lot of adoption for Lightning Network. I've seen some amazing stuff happening. Did you see anything like that there? Like, what was your experience like?
I didn't see anything specifically blockchain related, but there were so many technological, like just norms that they had there that were really interesting. Like the first was just like the way that they do payments. It's, if you're at a restaurant, you're not giving your card to someone and exchanging money that way. You're just using your phone, or you're just texting it to the restaurant. It's like, it's really, really streamlined in that sense.
Right.
And there's it's kind of like a central bank digital currency type of thing. So like, there's positives and negatives to that, but like it's just like
Like WeChat Pay. Yeah.
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 But the like, it sounds like, you know, just, I mean, everything that Rwanda went through in the 90s, there like this, like it's been a massive transition to where they are now, and like the entire like population there, like from across all socioeconomic standpoints, they're all have like a very similar mindset about just wanting to progress together. So when
Cool.
they introduce a new technology, that like the people that I was talking to there, they adopt it really quickly,
Oh,
and they're
right.
just really, really adaptable. So yeah, that was really interesting, and it gave me a lot of hope, because it is, I mean, I've traveled a good amount, but I mean, my whole shift from like a traditional career path happened when I went to Haiti back in like 2013.
Oh, right.
So, or 2012. And it was the most similar place I've ever seen to Haiti. But like where Haiti had, I mean, I was in Haiti after the earthquake,
Yeah, yeah.
and still like kind of like destroyed. But seeing Rwanda, like they're still on the up and up, but there's so much progress there, and like they know where they're going, and they just have direction, and it's really, really, really inspiring to be
So
able to go around.
everyone's sort of working together instead of
Yeah,
yeah, that's awesome. Oh, that's such a cool that's such a cool place to visit then. Like, and you can see that's what I was having this conversation the other day, like why Australia will be like and the US as well will be like the last countries to adopt like Lightning and open technologies as a standard. because there's no pain point yet. So like we were kind of saying before, like you have like your credit card works, you can go and buy stuff at the shops and whatever, but it's kind of cool that it's going to flip, and it's going to flip like, so these like third world countries that have been abused for such a long time, that'll be the first world, and these
Right.
countries will be the third world sort of thing, and and it'll happen quick, so it'll be like gradually then suddenly, and then you'll have people being like, oh whoa, what happened? Like, and I told you so sort of thing. But it's
Yeah.
yeah, it's fascinating to see. That's such a cool trip. Like, what I do you reckon there's for, well, obviously for Haiti as well, but more recently, I suppose, having gone to Rwanda, could you see them adopting like the Lightning Network pretty quickly then, from what you've seen?
Yeah, I think if they had a strong enough use case that they absolutely would. This is one of the reasons why I was really excited to start talking to you, because like I was saying, there's the specific aspect that I help people work with is like just like the overall design engineering of the system. Like the actual specifics of the technologies is not so much where I come in, but I think
Mm-hmm.
if we had like the ecosystem and the overall architecture figured out, and that was something that we can unleash within like the school of Bitcoin, and
Mm.
like all the different learners who are a little more tech savvy, that are like legitimate coders ongoing. I think that could be something that would be like such a cool project for just like open communities to start building out.
For sure, for sure. In particular, I suppose like education programs in countries like that. So it's like a lecturer's just come back from El Salvador and brought back the diploma that they have there. That's, I suppose that's like the first accredited Bitcoin course like in the world, really. And it's been translated to English. And she went and visited like a bunch of the schools, and she went to like the rural schools as well. And in places where they haven't necessarily sort of adopted Bitcoin, like they know it's there, they don't really understand it because they haven't had the education. She actually went and brought like the EDU tools, onboarded the students, and ran them through it. So cool. So there's like so many opportunities, and they, like you said, because the there's the opportunity for them to jump into stuff and accept it really quickly and kind of leapfrog legacy tech. So like um, using a mobile phone, using a smartphone over a computer, and a centralized internet connection from a household. It's just like they've gone straight LTE for everything, and leapfrog that technology. So it's like all on their phone sort of thing. So it's cool. I think there's good times ahead for that, for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
But with that, I suppose, like, what was your big takeaway? How long did you go for to Rwanda, and like what was the big takeaway in terms of the technology that you saw there that could potentially like translate to Lightning? Obviously the payments, but was there anything else?
I think it was the payments. That's a good question. I think like I think communication would be like they don't have access to all the same communication apps that we do. But even one of the younger guys that I was talking to there, him and his friends are working on like an application to connect um, like restaurants and marketplaces and just help them find more, get more access to like merchants or customers to come in.
So
And
is that the protocols? Is it so they haven't got access to like the same apps? So like, for lack
it's
of
just app.
just
Yeah, yeah.
Facebook or whatever, or is there stuff blocked, or like what's the
I think it's
piece?
like smaller. It's smaller apps. It's not like they have Facebook and Instagram and all of that. It's more like little smaller things like maybe like a Telegram or a Signal might not be out there.
Right.
But I think one of the most interesting things that I saw when I was there was just how connected even the smallest shops are. Because you'll have like an actual building, and then you'll have something right next to it. It looks like it's the size of a phone booth, where you can like buy phone credits, or you can like charge like a payment card, or just buy little random knickknacks. It looks like it was someone on the side of the street, but they're fully tapped in. They're fully on the register within the country, and like within the payment system. And I think that they have a really, their overall government they have a really strong governance that's in place there.
Right.
And I don't know if it could potentially be something that would be used for like leasing, like their land leasing and things like that. But
Right.
I'm not too sure what the other applications would be. Obviously the monetary, but I'll have to think about that one.
Yeah, sounds like we need to hit up Jack Mellors, I think, to get over there. That's get strike in there ASAP. All right, so going back to your learning journey anyway. So gone through hardware wallets, hash rate, Lightning, obviously you've used. Multi-sigs. Have you like we kind of touched on it before? Have you used multi-sig transactions before, or looked into it at all?
I've used multi-sig only experimentally. So I worked like I developed a company's minting dApp. Like they had an NFT. Like it was like this. It's like the Four Horsemen. It was like it's a comic book,
right?
Essentially. But it was the multi-sig we used was Gnosis Safe, and we were using it to manage the sale. So we were using it to house the NFTs, and when like we were doing like drops and things like that. So I used multi-sig just to manage the NFTs. So like that was my only glimpse into it.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, well, it's definitely worth looking into. For like I said, Nunchuck's probably the easiest to utilize, but Electrum's quite good. It's a really cool open source tool that lets you spin that up as well, relatively easy. But it's definitely worth, I think, for long term thinking, like, and even for DAOs. So like I know you're working with people forming sort of DAOs. I think that's kind of key and central to that as well, right? So like if you're gonna have people working, and even just regular companies, really, like I think I know Michael Saylor, who's probably has the most Bitcoin publicly of anyone in the world. I think his is just through like a essentially custodial with insurance. I was thinking, Jesus, shouldn't he have like multi-sig set up with like trusted people rather than that? But apparently not. But I think like moving forward, like any company sort of getting into putting BTC on the balance sheet really need to be looking at that like off the bat. I know Amber does that. So like any custodial BTC they have, and this is my first question, like before I even had the podcast or anything, years ago emailed them saying like what's your security protocols, and they were like, oh, multi-sig, and like went through like how they do it. Like that's pretty cool. It's pretty awesome. So I think any company looking at it should be doing it. So yeah, definitely worth having a play and exploring around for sure. Went into nodes as well. I think that the last big question I had for you is well, it's kind of two parts. So like where do you go to learn about new technologies and BTC and all that sort of thing, and decentralized tech, open source tech? And with that, how do you sort of utilize it for onboarding people if you do?
So like using the actual, like using Bitcoin to onboard people, or using what I learned.
So like where do you go to learn stuff, and then how do you apply that to teach people?
Sure. Yeah. So I mean, YouTube, I just like go down rabbit holes on YouTube of learning about open source protocols, or just like new advances in Bitcoin. I think one of my favorite resources that I use, it's not necessarily about learning about new tech. I think I like learning about the philosophy behind Bitcoin more than anything. So I love listening to just like the What is Money podcast by Robert Breedlove.
Oh yeah, he's awesome.
And yeah, so it's like one of my favorite series that he had. I think it was Mike. Oh, I can't remember his last name. He was essentially just talking about how similar like the ethos behind Bitcoin is to like the mythologies that like shape like humanity and our like the stories that shape reality and everything. And so it's like little things like that. When I was learning about how like the decentralization and like the structure of how it works matches so closely to how natural systems are in the world, and also just like naturally how we share and exchange stories and information. Those are the types of things that really just get my mind flowing in new ways. Because more than anything, like the protocol that I use to take people through the process of creating their own goal-oriented game is it's really based on like the Bitcoin protocol. So when I start thinking about things in different ways, I'll think, oh, okay, so like at this point in the protocol, someone will submit their proof of work in a Discord channel. And then in order for them to share it and get it out in the world, they'll have to find a website, whether it's Teachable or they're listing it on a different website. That's how I need to get it out in the world. And so, okay, then I will ask myself, like, who's acting as the miner in this situation? So it's just, I'm more than anything, like I like learning about Bitcoin and different blockchain technologies, not so much necessarily so I can use a specific software within it, but to see, I really want to like try to reverse engineer and make it as simple for myself and others to understand how the overall mechanisms work. And then I'm excited when we get to the point. It'll be a couple months down the road with the people I'm working with, but that's when we'll get a little bit more into the actual technologies. So at this point, it's more like the underlying function of decentralization, how proof of work works, like the relays between steps within a protocol. Those are the types of things I'm always trying to extract and see how I can apply in existing Web 2 applications.
That's so cool. So cool. That was a fantastic answer. I think we'll have to leave it there. Thanks so much, Jacques, for jumping in. I know is it late over there now?
It's getting there.
Yeah, I thought it might be. So I'll let you go.
Yeah.
But best places for people to reach out to you. Twitter, is that probably the best place for you? Or like
yeah,
what's
Twitter, yeah, Twitter, just TrainFarb, TrainFarb.
What? So before we go, where did that name come from? Is that like your nickname or like what is that?
Like with everything I'm working on and just like decentralization, I feel like everyone's kind of hide mind, like, oh, we're changing the world with this. So I like to just have fun with it. If you change the B and the T, like the first and the last letter, it's brain fart. So that's where it came from.
Classic. Oh, that is the perfect way to end a podcast. That is awesome. Thanks so much, Jacques. This has been awesome. We'll have to catch up again soon. And yeah, feel free to jump into the School of Bitcoin meetups. We've moved the day, so hopefully that works out for you. But yeah, sing out if not. And yeah, we'll chat again soon.
Okay, cool. Talk to you soon. Thanks a lot.
Adios.
Appreciate it.